If there's one thing that could be common between us and the worlds beyond the doorway, it's carbon. All life in our world is made of carbon. Because carbon has a unique property that no other element possesses, it can easily form large, complex molecules. Molecules that don't easily break apart. Another special feature of carbon is that its atoms can bond with other atoms around them, making carbon capable of forming the most compounds among all elements. For example, carbon makes coal, which is one compound. It makes diamonds, another compound. It makes marble, yet another compound. And we are also made of the same carbon black, decaying, brittle earth. Carbon-based life. Carbon is present everywhere in this universe. So it's very possible that the creatures living beyond the doorway are also made of carbon like us. But an interesting question is, will they also look like us? If their world is like ours, then the creatures might visually resemble us. They might look like our animals or our plants, because they would be facing a similar environment in their world as we do in ours. It's not necessary that they look exactly like us, but the laws of nature apply equally to everyone. So these creatures would definitely have at least three things, because without these three things, they wouldn't be able to survive in their world. The first, some form of at least two eyes or sensory receptors to see and understand their environment. Only then could they respond to it. But where these eyes are placed on their face is important. The position of their eyes would define their intelligence level. Let me explain more simply. Our eyes are hunter's eyes, placed at the front of the face. Now, a simple question: who's more intelligent, hunter or prey? The hunter is always smarter and more clever than the prey. Their eyes face forward like a lion or a tiger, while the prey usually has eyes on the sides of its head like a rabbit or a deer. Why is that? Because a hunter needs to get up close to its prey at zero range. It needs to see when to attack. It needs to know how to hide, how to blend in with its surroundings, how to approach silently. All these tasks require a smart brain, whereas the prey just needs to run in fear. That's why any creature trying to survive in its world would need some kind of two or more eyes on its face. The second thing it would need is some kind of physical tools, hands, claws, tentacles, some means to physically control its environment. Our hands are the organs through which we manipulate our surroundings, build shelter, make space to sit or hide. And the third thing it must have is a language, or a form of communication. Without it, these beings wouldn't be able to interact with each other. They couldn't reproduce or coordinate. Now imagine what kind of astonishing creatures might exist in just this first hall. Some with two eyes, some with many. Creatures with multiple arms, multiple claws, or even hundreds or thousands of tentacles. Some might scream and roar. Some might be extremely fast runners. Others might dig instantly into the ground to hide. Some might use their claws to dig things out from the earth. Just in the first hall, you'd see endless shapes and forms of life. And now I'll show you how just a tiny change in their world's environment can completely change how those creatures look. For example, what if days in their world were slightly longer or shorter than ours? What if the shape of their planet was a bit different? What if their seasons or gravity were unlike ours? What if the sunlight in their world was slightly different? If the days are longer, their seasons will be more extreme. Long hot spells mean less need for body hair, but longer nights mean long winters, and the creatures would need thick fur to survive the cold. Hairier creatures for longer, colder nights. If gravity is higher on their planet, the creatures would have stronger bones and bigger muscles to stand up against it. Their hearts would be larger and more powerful to support blood flow in those larger bodies. Imagine a loud, roaring creature with a giant body and chest. But if gravity is lower, that world wouldn't be able to hold its atmosphere. The atmosphere would escape, making the surface harsh to live on. So guess what kind of creatures you'd see there? Creatures living deep underground in massive caves. And since caves don't have much light, their vision would adapt to low-light environments. Their eyes would also be very large so they could absorb as much light as possible and see better in the dark, just like nocturnal animals in our world. That is, animals that are more active at night, such as aardvarks, bats, owls, moose, or geckos. But if that creature learns to live on the surface of its own world, then the view would be extraordinary. The plants and trees of that world would be extremely tall due to lower gravity. That creature wouldn't need large bones or massive muscles. it would be a tall, thin being. At this point, I would like to share a report related to Islamic accounts, a report given by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. According to Islamic accounts, the first human Adam was created in a different place, a different realm, and then he was sent to this world. All Muslims know this, and it is written in Islam's holiest book, the Quran. But the world from which Adam was sent, and the transition from that world to this one, includes something very significant, found in the Hadith collection of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. While Adam lived in that world, his height was 60 cubits, approximately 90 feet. More explanation of Adam's tall stature is also found from the companions of the Prophet, such as Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, and Ubay ibn Ka'b, may Allah be pleased with him, who narrated that when Adam made a mistake, he became so embarrassed that he started running here and there, and due to his great height, his hair got entangled in a tree. All of this makes sense. It was a different realm, a different world altogether. That's why the laws of nature there were unlike the ones we recognize. And not just this, in the Hadith collection, there's more astonishing explanation from Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, stating that ever since Adam was sent to this world, the height of humans has gradually decreased and continues to decrease. You see, I am amazed at how clearly the laws of nature are explained in this religion. That world was something else entirely. Even gravity worked differently there. That's why Adam's height was so great. But when he was sent to this world, we were even told how gravity started to take effect, and since then, it continues to influence us. Heights of creatures have continued to decrease. And not only that, the Hadith collection also mentions a future transformation. When the children of Adam are once again taken back to that original world, they will regain that 60-cubit height. All their earthly physical impurities will vanish, such as bodily waste. Can you see how this religion explains not only multiple worlds, but also the biochemistry of the beings that live in them? It even discusses how gravity affects their bodies. You won't find such explanations in any other religion. And this is a major reason why I've found more help from Islam than from any other religion in this purely scientific research project. And now it's time for me to take you to another hall in the House of Creatures, a hall that has remained sealed until now. The beings living inside it will be completely new to you, or in other words, a form of life we don't even recognize. The creatures found in this second hall will be called exotic life because their biochemistry isn't just unfamiliar, it's completely different from ours. These beings aren't carbon-based like us. No other element matches carbon's abilities. But there is one that comes close. This element's atoms can bond just like carbon's. Carbon is the fourth most abundant element in the universe, and this other one ranks seventh. It's known as silicon. Right after carbon, silicon is the most likely candidate to support life. But silicon brings something unique to the table. It can survive a wide range of extreme temperatures. And do you know what that means? It means silicon-based life actually made from silicon could survive in the harshest of climates. From freezing cold to scorching heat. Their bodies wouldn't even need fur because staying warm wouldn't be a problem. And yet they would still withstand temperatures from minus 60 degrees Celsius to blazing heat over 230 degrees. A silicon-based creature could live through it all. They could exist in icy winds and even thrive at altitudes far above Earth's surface, even on mountaintops. Unlike us, they wouldn't need to stay low for warmth. And even more surprising, they wouldn't even need water. But there are two key traits in the creatures from this hall that carbon-based life simply doesn't have, and I have to share them with you. First, silicon-based beings would be extremely lightweight. That's because silicon atoms don't form large molecules like carbon atoms do, and this could make them capable of flight. Second, carbon-based life like us is non-metallic, flesh and blood. But silicon-based life would be metallic, shiny, reflective creatures. And this detail is going to matter a lot later. But before I show you what these beings look like, I want to remove every doubt from your mind, because when you see them, I want you to believe what your eyes are seeing. Right now, there's a fascinating idea in science called pluralism. Simply put, it means that multiple worlds exist. It's one of the oldest ideas in human thought. It was around even when people believed Earth was the center of the universe. Over 2,700 years ago, in ancient religions like Jainism and Hinduism, The idea of pluralism already existed. Their sacred texts mention 4 types of kshetras, or realms, and one of them is said to be home to non-human beings. Even Europe, up until the 16th century, thought the sun, moon, and stars all revolved around Earth. But then something strange happened. In 16th century Italy, a priest named Giordano Bruno had a dream that became one of the most talked about in the history of science. He dreamt he was flying through space and saw that Earth wasn't the center of the universe. It was just another planet orbiting the sun, like many others. Giordano Bruno had a genuine vision. But because he was a priest, he started sharing this dream in religious gatherings. The church didn't take it lightly. They pushed him to take back his claims, as it directly challenged Christian beliefs. His words suggested Earth wasn't special, just one planet among many, but they believed humans were a divine creation. When Giordano refused to recant, they imprisoned him, and after 12 years in prison, when he still didn't back down, they burned him alive. Giordano wasn't a scientist, he was a priest, so he had no evidence to prove his dream. But just 10 years after his execution, Galileo Galilei peered through his telescope into the heavens and confirmed that Giordano's dream was true. There are other worlds like ours. Moons circle them, just as our moon orbits Earth. In 1610, Galileo discovered the 4 major moons of Jupiter, now called the Galilean moons. The 4 major moons of Jupiter, Ganymede, Callisto, Europa, and Io, proved Giordano's dream right. Earth orbits the sun, just as other planets orbit their own stars. But Giordano's vision didn't stop there. He also claimed to have seen strange and wonderful creatures walking and swimming on those other worlds. Giordano's dream was perhaps like the one Pharaoh had during the time of Prophet Joseph, Yusuf A.S., when he saw 7 thin cows devour 7 fat ones, a dream that ultimately came true. The first part of Giordano's dream came to life just 10 years after his death, and the second part about alien creatures on other planets, my research suggests that part might also come true very soon. There's a reason I told you Giordano's story. Today's fiction could easily become tomorrow's reality. And now I want to introduce you to some fascinating novels that might not be pure science fiction after all. For instance, in 1950, Arthur C. Clarke wrote a novel called Technical Error, where a scientist's experiment goes wrong, and from the machine, a mirror image of the scientist appears an exact duplicate. Then in 1976, Roger Zelazny wrote a similar story where a man discovers a strange machine in the desert. It alters his cells, and from inside the machine, someone identical to him steps out. Then in 2014, James Corey wrote The Cibola Burn, in which humans travel to a new planet. But because of the alien environment, the food there is slightly different, so people learn how to grow crops in entirely new ways. Sounds like classic science fiction, right? Who would believe such ideas? But truthfully, there's one person who definitely would, a man named Louis Pasteur. Louis Pasteur was a French scientist from the 18th century who proposed a concept, one that no one had ever seen with their eyes. Yet the mathematics behind it was so solid that today, it's one of the most studied topics in science. And even now, it continues to evolve. Let me explain Pasteur's idea in the simplest way. All life on Earth is made up of molecules that form in a very specific way, amino acids aligned to the left, sugars to the right. This stunning molecular balance is called homochirality in scientific terms. But Pasteur posed a question. What if we flip those positions? Left becomes right, right becomes left. What if life could form that way? We might discover a whole new version of life, a version that may look just like us, but is actually our mirror image. This question led to the birth of synthetic biology. Today, after $40 million and countless hours of research, scientists have engineered a brand new form of life. A bacterium called JCVI SYN 1.0, or simply SYN 1.0. Now imagine if humans can create mirrored life forms within just 20 years. Then what could nature have crafted behind the closed doors of parallel worlds over billions of years? What unimaginable creatures might dwell beyond those cosmic thresholds? And now I'm about to reveal to you the creature that resides in the second hall. You're about to witness a form of life that we can only describe as a form of life we didn't even know existed.